installment of Wednesday Morning Roundtable. I'm Laura Coburn, as you probably know. I'm up here often. And it is my pleasure to introduce many of our guests. And today, we have two special guests who are going to talk to us about what I believe is a very exciting renaissance happening downtown. I'm going to introduce our first guest, and she'll introduce our second guest. Our first guest is Connie Talcott. And
Excuse me.
oh, Riley. Oh, my God. It has been Riley a long time, and the reason I slipped, I'm going to give myself a little bit of an excuse, is that I was thinking about when I first met Connie, which was at the bookstore that she founded in Union Springs of that previous name. And so I met Connie way back then when my husband and I first moved to this area, and that was one of our favorite things to do, was to go down to Connie's bookstore and peruse the goods there. And as I reacquainted myself with Connie's accomplishments and read her bio and what she's done, a couple of patterns emerged for me. And those were a love of history, of course, and a care for that, but also this wonderful spirit she has for bringing people together and helping them to accomplish great things. And some of those things were the formation of the Route 90 Association, and then from there sprang the Route 90 Garage Sale, now in its 27th year. I did have occasion to do it once. It's quite an event. Connie also founded the Frontenac Historical Society. Yeah.
Didn't found it. I was the president for 6 years.
President for 6 years, yes. Should be looking at my notes. And then Connie also helped get Bass Pro Shop sort of off the ground in a kind of public way because she helped them when they first came to Auburn. And then she became the assistant director at the Business Improvement District, and now is the executive director. And I take it, I am newly on that board, and I can assure you that Connie is doing a fine job and also loves her work. So thank you and welcome, Connie Reilley.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am on the way around the room. I think it's a two-sided sheet about bid. We often get questions about what is the boundaries of bid, and so there's a map on one side, and on the other side is a list of what we do. Bid is a state-sanctioned entity. You can't just say we're going to start a bid and start one up. So it's quite a laborious project, and that was all taken on by the Auburn Downtown Partnership, which was a group of business people who got together, and from that they realized they needed to rise to another level, so they pursued the bid. And so on the front is, we do have a lot of services, and the map is on the back, and if you have any questions about bid, please feel free to stop into our location at 128 Genesee, right next door to Servo's Newsstand, across the street from Parker's and A.T. Wally's. And we have been so happy to watch the revival of Auburn and the downtown area. It's just been a joy to be part of, to watch, and I just can't say enough about how pleased people seem to be that all of this is happening. So in honoring one of the entities, one of the businesses that have made a lot of this happen, we have Joe Bartolotta here to talk about their many projects. And Joe is the perpetually busy man that springs out of 2 State Street and goes off to many venues to take care of things, keep things going. So you had a nice presentation, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much for being here.
I just want to thank Connie and Laurel and Jesse for inviting us to this event today and giving us the opportunity to present to you. For many of you, this is going to probably be old news. I've given this presentation before, but I'm happy to kind of give you an idea of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, and where the community's going. It seems good things in store for everyone. So, myself and my family were part of R&M Real Estate Group, and we've been kind of busy. I just want to give you a little background. It all kind of started when my father and my uncle, Matteo and Nino Bartolotta, immigrated from Italy to Brooklyn, New York, where they started their woodworking craft. And they were there for 15 years and resettled here in Auburn in 1977. Together with their woodworking trade, they also had brought with them an affinity for old architecture, and started almost from the start buying up small buildings, 2, 3, 4 family homes, renovating them, and kind of combining his passion for woodworking with his passion for real estate. So he merged the two, and he started out in the 70s, through the 80s, into the 90s, just kept going slowly, one structure at a time. And it was really evident that I couldn't swing a hammer very well at an early age. So they sent me to law school. And I was quietly practicing law with a firm in Syracuse in 2005 when I got a call from my father, and he says, guess what? I purchased a factory in downtown Auburn, 70,000 square feet. We're going to renovate it into luxury condos. And I said, okay. We went through the White Meccano factory on Logan Street. It was a long time abandoned, dilapidated old structure. My brother and I walked through, shattered windows, rotted floorboards, cat-infested mess. And I thought my father was a little nuts, and I think a lot of people share that sentiment. But those of you who know him know that once he gets his mind made up, there's no turning back. So when you can't beat him, you join him. So that's what I did. I took a leave of absence, which was supposed to be about a year from practicing with a firm in Syracuse. It's turned into several with a lot of great things that have happened in the intro. So we bought the old piano factory, and through the help of the city, the local IDA, a lot of members of the community who embraced the idea, we set upon a course to renovate it into 37 luxury loft apartments, all within walking distance to downtown. And it's got beautiful cabinetry, obviously. He was able to incorporate his woodwork into the project. In fact, I would say that we handled probably 80% of the work in-house through a series of hires where we have in-house mason, in-house carpenter. My brother and my cousin are instrumental in managing those craftsmen in the field. So we were able to pull it off. Thankfully it all went well, and since putting it in service in 2010, we've been 100% occupied. So that's been a real treat. So from there, a bunch of local business people and leaders of the community got together and formed a blueprint group, and out of that came a series of initiatives for downtown Auburn and all of Cuba County, including the Theater Festival. And one of the local philanthropic organizations decided to start with the core of downtown, and they purchased a series of buildings on State Street, Genesee Street, between Dill and Genesee. And they started on a course of trying to find a developer that would undertake a project of this size. That became a little difficult. It sat for a few years until we decided to step up. And so we acquired what essentially were 4 buildings: 117 Genesee Street, 16, 18, and 20 State Street. And we kind of started our focuses on 117 Genesee Street, which is on the corner of State and Genesee Street. A lot of the exterior work had already been done, but the inside was just a raw shell. So we started to figure out what we were going to do, and of course we decided apartments on top and storefronts on the bottom. The problem was that structure is very small, and only really about 800 square feet on the first floor. So for most modern uses, it just wasn't enough space. So we decided to acquire the two buildings adjacent to that on State Street, which were 119 and 121 Genesee Street. And then by combining those spaces, you had about 2,500 square feet, which is enough room to bring in the ADA compliancy for the bathrooms and the like. And that's when we started to garner some interest in the structure, because it was a little bit better canvas to work with. We had a series of different interested parties, and then along came 4 local investors, 4 gentlemen who decided they wanted to open a upscale martini bar in downtown Auburn, which was received similar to luxury lofts in downtown Auburn. You know, it just didn't seem like it would fit. But you know, they believed in it, we believed in it, and together we invested in that little corner of downtown. And A.T. Wally's opened, I want to say, in April of 2013, and they've been tremendously successful, thankfully, and doing quite well. Above the storefronts, we have 6 loft apartments, very similar in finishes to Logan Lofts, so upper scale apartments. And thankfully, those filled pretty quickly. Again, when we started off on this course, we figured our demographic would be empty nesters, retirees, people who didn't want to maintain homes any longer. And while we have that demographic, more than 50% at Logan and 100% here in downtown, we're finding young professionals coming in from out of town, out of state in a lot of cases, and which is encouraging. They're coming here for jobs, which shocked us, but it's all good. They're working, you know, within a 45-minute radius of Auburn. So we've got them from Ithaca, people who work in Ithaca, Syracuse, Rochester, but living here in Auburn. And so that's worked out really well. Once we were through with A.T. Wally's and the 6 apartments above that, we focused our efforts on the State Street block between Dill and Genesee Street. And of course, everyone knows it as the old John Stevens building on the corner, which was actually historically the original armory of Auburn. And so we did another 9 loft apartments up top, and we started marketing for businesses to open on the first floor. Our first tenant was Congressman Maffei, who won the seat, needed a home, and we were able to renovate a lower floor of the John Stevens building for him. Soon thereafter, we were approached by a local business person, Bistro in town, decided he wanted to do a larger scale operation. And from that was born Osteria Salina and a bakery, which just opened recently, within the last 2-3 weeks. And it seems to be doing well. We've also got the storefront of John Stevens and a small section of the other building on State Street, which we're right now in the final processes of hopefully signing leases, and so hopefully we'll be in a position to announce a new retail establishment and perhaps another eatery. And then just recently we opened Downtown Shag, which is a day spa salon that opened in the John Stevens building. So things are starting to come together. We've got a little more work to do, but we're pretty much done with the block of State Street between Genesee and Dill. And I think from an aesthetic standpoint, it's come together really quite well. And the big part of it is that people have been receptive. Businesses have decided to invest. People are walking around. It's got more of a metropolitan feel, and so it's going in the direction that we had hoped. And hopefully that'll continue, because we're not finished. From State Street, what we plan to do is head up a block, what we call the East Hill, which is the block of East Genesee Street between Seminary and John Street. Now, over the course of about a decade, we've been busy working on several of the structures, and we've recently acquired the old McAvoy Flower Shop, the old East Hill News Stand building, and the old Mark's Pizzeria site. And out of that, we're just about ready to commence issuing bids to do another 10 loft apartments, and we'll have a total of 6 storefronts, of which we've already got 2 signed for new retail establishments. And we'll continue down the path of marketing to get the rest of these 6 storefronts rented. In the meantime, we're going to start with the 10 loft apartments, and hopefully demand will continue to be there. And we'll have, you know, a series of probably another 20 to 25 downtown residents. So between Logan Lofts, what we call the Creative Quarter, which is State Street, and the East Hill, you know, that's easily close to 100 new residents downtown when they're all occupied. You know, most of them being about 2 people per unit. So that's been a very challenging couple of years. But in addition to Genesee Street, we decided what we're going to do with the apartments, again, in keeping with the theme that we very similar to Logan Park Lofts, with the high-end cabinetry and finishes. We're doing a series of terraces on the backside. So as you come down John Street and you see all the rear of the buildings on East Genesee Street, they're gonna be more appealing and a little more aesthetically pleasing, and it'll allow tenants to have an outdoor space for their apartments. So that's all going to be happening within the next 3-4 months, probably carry it through spring and summer. And then John Street, which is going to be probably one of our largest challenges because those structures are in need of a lot of help. But what we've essentially done is we've acquired all of the old houses, but for one, on John Street. The block of John Street is between Arterial East and East Genesee Street, and it's really kind of a main entrance of our community, and certainly the welcome mat to downtown business district. And currently, it's just not, it doesn't make the first impression that we'd like to see for our community, and I think people share that sentiment. So what we're going to do there, and we'll probably commence that right after East Hill, and that is we're going to renovate every single structure on that block into loft apartments. We'll have a total of 12 there, and the streetscape will be dramatically improved with landscaping and lamp posts, and just bring a feel that would be more of a welcome mat and a better first impression of our city for people coming in, which from the east on Arterial East. And that's, we want to give people, we want to pique people's curiosity and want them to explore downtown as they're coming in on John Street rather than reaching over and locking the door, which seems to be the case right now. So that's it in a nutshell with regard to what we have going on. And one of the things that's most encouraging to us is that it's not just us. We're not the only crazy people that see possibilities downtown. We've got some great local business people who are also throwing their hat in the ring. Dan Souls with the Plaza of the Arts is doing a fantastic job, and that's really coming together beautifully. We've got Grant Kyle, a young entrepreneur here in town who's done some great renovations with some old mill structures and continues down that path. And you know, we're starting to hear rumors of more people coming to invest in downtown, which is exactly what we want. And hopefully, you know, as a community, we can continue to build on what momentum has started with the Theater Festival. Hopefully that will be getting their flagship built soon. It'll be nice to see some earth move over there. And so I think that all things considered, Auburn's got a bright future. And be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And that's it in a nutshell.
Property developers becoming property managers like you are. You're combining the two. Do you see yourself dividing that, you know, shedding the management portion of it to continue investing in development?
That's a question that probably will be answered sometime in the future. We have one particular member of our team that tends to get emotionally tied to his projects. So the likelihood of that happening anytime soon are very, very soon.
I would just say, whatever it is, it's working and it's really exciting.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
As a community member, I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
thanks to the guys in the field, to the city, the county, the community. It's been a hell of a ride. I just feel privileged to be able to be on the ride.
Joe, I just want to mention about the John Street project.
Yes.
I remember years ago when they were doing a feasibility study for the most recent Emerson Park master plan. The consultants out of Massachusetts were looking at the region and looking at the traffic pattern, see how large a venue could happen at the park based on the streets. And I remember him making a comment about that street, saying, you know, it's not just the entrance to our downtown, it's the entrance, the regional entrance for a lot of people to the lake. So it's not just locals, but people coming through to go out to the lake. So I was so excited when I heard you were doing that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Plugging away. So.
Joe, what's your sense after doing all of these renovations, and as you mentioned before that, you were doing your dad was doing houses in the neighborhoods. What's your sense of the opportunities that are in the first ring neighborhoods that surround downtown? Because there's transitional, there's good neighborhoods, and there's transitional neighborhoods, and then there's some pockets. And when I say inner ring, what I mean are sort of just around downtown. You know, on East Hill it would be, you know, going down John Street and Seminary in that area, near Level Lofts, over here near Wall Street and the Fort Hill Cemetery. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of potential there, and I think that as you see the main streets continue to be improved, that will start to trickle and into the neighborhoods. And in fact, it's already happening. I mean, on Orchard Street, those city blocks are being developed. And so, yeah, I'm optimistic that will continue, that trend will continue to trickle into the neighborhoods.
On East Hill, the development that you're doing, there's the parking lots. Are those going to be filled in, or how will that fit into the
Yeah, in
project?
fact, I've got another rendering, and I know they're probably difficult to see from where you're standing, but if you look at it from from a bird's eye view, it'll be almost the entire city block, including all the parking
So
lots.
those will become structures then?
No,
Oh,
they'll be
stay.
redeveloped though to kind of take the edge off of the industrial feel and make it a little bit more welcoming and more of a kind of an office park setting type look. So it'll be improved, but not with structures. Some of the old structures back there, including the cobblestone building right behind the McAvoy building, that'll be renovated. That was the original blacksmith shop, I'm told, for the municipality back when firefighters used horses and police horses that's where they were housed.
Hi, I'd like to thank you, first of all, for what you're doing in improving the quality of life, not only for residents, but for people who visit here. And I know you have a lot on your plate right now, but has there been any thought or consideration of further getting involved in the area between William Street and, say, North Street and or down as far as Wegman Street? I don't know if there's any availability of buildings that you might be interested in acquiring and doing work on?
At this point, it's my focus to try to get these structures on our plate, completed and occupied. But yeah, certainly we're always looking for other opportunities, and whether that's in the core of Auburn or somewhere else in Cuyahoga County, there's a good chance we'll continue down that path.
Let's see if you were kind of, what types of retail establishments have the best potential going downtown?
That's a question I don't really have an answer for. We're strong believers that the more residential applications we can place in downtown, the better potential for retail establishments to open and thrive. And that's what our main focus is to bring that foot traffic in. From there, I think that the retail will come, but it's kind of the chicken and egg scenario. So the more downtown residents that we can place downtown, the better. And, you know, there's studies done that, you know, if you walk, live, work in one area, you get a lot of your disposable income, more so than just say someone that comes into work in the community. So we want to just continue focusing on that, and hopefully the retail will follow.
And it will. There are several types of businesses who are just kind of hanging back a little bit to make sure that the economy is as good as the government wants us to think it is. 3 years ago, I started working with the Simply New York store in the Rochester area, and he was very intrigued about the theater festival. He wanted to be here. So we looked at several locations, and he, in the end, said that he was still wanting to come to Auburn, but he wanted to wait. He didn't want to stretch himself out too thin, and that's a very wise tack to take. So, and there are several businesses that I've talked to that, and certainly bringing people to live downtown is probably the first step. And then the market will kind of decide itself. It's kind of interesting how that happens, but potential is here, and I have every confidence that it will happen.
Sure.
You know, just I want to echo what everybody said here. 90% of us know you and your family, and the reason that you are successful, I believe, is because your dad is so respectful of everybody in this community. We really, truly appreciate that. That's why we respect all of you, and that's an outstanding thing to have. So thank you.
Much appreciated.
Second question, the question is, how did your family end up in Auburn?
That's an interesting question. You know, my mother's from Auburn,
Okay.
so that's probably the first point. But I don't know about all the other details. Certainly, high-end craftsmanship, like my father and uncle do, was in strong demand when he got here. But he's managed to make a successful shop here in Auburn. So we're
Well, we're
thankful.
certainly glad you picked it up.
Joe, parking is a perennial issue in downtown, whether or not it's legal or not, I'm not sure. What's your sense as somebody trying to rent for residential? What's the dynamic that you see with parking with your tenants?
Parking is a challenge, but you know, it's a good problem to have, that there are too many people downtown and not enough parking. We're fortunate enough that we have just enough off-street parking to offer one spot per unit. But I tell you that the young people that we've rented to, they're because oftentimes they have more than one vehicle, they're renting space over at the garage, and they don't seem to have a real issue. It's only about not even 2 blocks, you know, about a block and a half from our projects. So I think people will just start to, they'll just start to adapt to the fact that they're going to have to walk up a block or two away from their destination. We're just spoiled here. We tend to drive around in circles for half an hour to find a parking spot within 10 feet. I do it myself, but you know, we'll just have to adapt. You know, in New York City, to walk 10 blocks is an easy walk. So I think sooner or later we'll just adapt to the same.
I think to add to that, I'd love to see the community do more to encourage walking. I know there's lots of people who do, but I think the community we could do that. The other thing is I mentioned to you that my husband and I renovated in 1899, not too far from the YMCA. We found a whole horse tail when we were renovating, so we put it back in the wall. I'm just wondering if you found any cool things while you're doing all this project.
You know, unfortunately, and my brother probably answered better than I. Anthony's with us. I didn't see him slip in, but he's definitely spends more time in the field than I do. But with that said, I don't think we found anything of interest or value.
No paddles, but most times things are picked over by the time we get to.
Yeah, that's true. So unfortunately, no cool stories to share with you.
Well, if you have any, you'd love to.
Absolutely.
This is kind of a geeky building question, but you're buying lots of old, leaky historical structures. Are you finding it a challenge to bring them up to New York State Energy Code, or incorporating any sustainability ideas?
Yeah, actually, well, you know, when we do the structure, we do it from the inside out, top to bottom, so we bring in new mechanical systems completely, so they are high efficiency furnaces and whatnot, and brand new windows, and so, yeah, we do raise it to a standard of energy efficiency, if that's your question. But it is challenging, at every aspect. I mean, one of the things that we struggle with is the blueprints are never static. I mean, they constantly change when you're renovating an old structure, and you just do the best you can to bob and weave and hope that the change orders don't amount to very much.
Hey Joe, having looked at your apartments and stuff like that, you guys seem to gravitate towards 1 and 2 bedroom places. Is that the plan for the East Hill development and then also for John's?
Yeah, on East Hill, we've got 10 units, only 2 of which are 1 bedroom, the rest are 2 bedrooms. Sometimes the structure itself dictates what you're going to end up with, just based on the structure and the space you have to work on. We found that 1 and 2 bedrooms are in more demand downtown because it's not likely that you'll get families demanding 3 and 4 bedrooms. Usually you got single people or couples, and so 1 and 2 bedrooms seem to be the most in demand, and that's what we'll continue to do. On John Street, the same, 1 and 2 bedrooms.
So my guess is the question about the stores earlier probably should be geared towards something that somebody with some disposable income is looking towards. I mean, because you're going to get that young professional or at least small family, kind of mentality going with that stuff. So
Yeah, I think a lot of our residents patronize A.T. Wally's quite a bit, and some probably more than they want. In fact, one gentleman told me it's not, the location is actually causing them to be there a little bit more often.
One of the things I've noticed about the Finger Lakes since we've been here 25, 28 years is that because it was isolated, things didn't get torn down, although there were periods, urban renewal that was happening. What I'm so thankful about when I'm thinking about doing this is that you have decided to keep the structures you've got and fix them, as opposed to what is much more common across the country, ripping them out, building new. And I thank you for.
Well, I'll tell you, in some cases it makes sense. In others, it probably doesn't. John Street, for example, would be much easier to raise and start new. But again, we've got a member of our team that is a preservationist at heart. Yeah, he needs it.
This is for you or Connie. Is there any information or insight you can tell us about the possible future of the old brutalist HSBC Bank at the corner of North Kennedy Street?
The concrete monster. No, I don't really. Maybe Connie would be able to answer that better. I don't know if anything's kicking around. Any interest in that?
The bunker's future is,
Unknown.
who knows? And I think part of it is because it looks like a bunker. I mean, it's just very unappealing. So I've heard a lot of rumors, and I really can't speak to those. So that's one of the mysteries of downtown Auburn, what's to happen with that building. And just to address your walking tour question, a BID has partnered in the last 5 years with a couple different entities, and the Cuba County Health Department for the last 2 years has worked very hard to get some walking tours established. It's an ongoing effort, and then Susan Muldoon with her after-school group and BID and some other entities produced a walking tour of a fold-out map with history along with it, and we have them at our office. So there are many people working towards that because we all know we need to walk more, every one of us. And we have so many historical sites, so we've tied them all together and tried to make it very easy for the visitor or the resident to know what's going on. So you'll be hearing more about walking tours. Thanks.
Joe, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the retail question and the opportunities that are there, but then also maybe give you a softball, I don't know. But, you know, the types of retail establishments that we're going to be drawing downtown are going to be a little different than some of the other downtowns because we have a unique asset that most downtown communities do not. We're not going to find stores that are going to be selling necessities and things like that because we have a downtown Wegmans, and that is not a common thing for communities of our size. And so the retail is going to be more, Rob, like you said, the disposable incomes, you know, the specialty shops, the dining establishments, the eateries, those kind of things. And, you know, I know that it could have been very easy for you guys to come in and just be focused on filling your space at whatever cost. And so, which even if that is finding someone that's willing to move from 2 blocks down into your place. But I know, having talked with you, that that's not the mentality that you guys have taken in doing this. And can you just talk a little bit, you spoke a little bit about marketing those spaces. And I know that you guys are doing it in a very specific way. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how you are looking at filling those spaces?
Absolutely. First, to your point with Wegmans, you're absolutely right. I've talked to developers out of Syracuse. They say that's one of their #1 challenges is that in bringing residents downtown Syracuse is that they need to get in their car and drive 30 minutes, 25 minutes to get their groceries. Here, most of our residents walk to Wegmans, which really works out well. And then to answer your question with regard to marketing, you're right. We are taking a very deliberate, pointed kind of approach to marketing our units. One of the main things is, A, we want the appropriate use downtown. We don't want to just open, you know, and again, it's not to pick on the tattoo parlors and the pawn shops. I mean, they certainly serve their purposes and are needed, but we're trying to bring a certain type of business into downtown, and we're also very cognizant of the fact that our tenants have invested in downtown, and so we don't want them to have to compete with similar uses. So we're doing our best to bring a diverse mix of commercial tenants downtown. We've already been approached by individuals who want to do something similar to other tenants that we have, and we've turned them away because the ultimate success of our projects is going to be a big, kind of a diverse mix where they complement each other rather than compete against each other. And so you're right, it's taken us a little bit longer to lease out commercial space because of that.
Jim, is there feedback from your young professionals and tenants of things that as a community we could do that would enhance their lifestyle and what they're looking for?
You know, I have to say, I've really been given nothing but positive feedback. As Andy said, the Wegmans is huge. People really enjoy being able to walk to get their groceries every day. And the YMCA being right there downtown is a big, huge asset as well. In fact, I mean, we had our original plans for a gym in Logan Park Lofts, but we figured out really quickly that people would rather walk up the street and have, you know, a Class A establishment with a, you know, with the spa, or not the spa, but whatever you want to call it, the steam room and everything else, rather than, you know, exercise a bike in a treadmill in a building. So I have to say, I really don't have an answer to the question what other services that they might demand here. They haven't given me anything but positive feedback on the community and what it has to offer.
Let me ask you about pilots.
Okay.
Yeah, the finances. I mean, would you have done this, would you have done any of these pieces without a pilot? What's been, you mentioned the city of Auburn as a partner. What role has government played, and could you have done this without a pilot? We hear all the negatives of pilots. Paying a blue tax agreement for those who don't know.
Guy, I mean, these deals are not easy to finance at all. In fact, you know, when we approach the banks,
The bankers are in the front row.
One of the biggest challenges with Logan Park Lofts was getting financing for that project. It was a large-scale project. It was very expensive. It's always more expensive to renovate an old structure rather than start a new, new build. And so the answer to your question is no. The banks, I mean, again, we've got a member of our development team that will probably do things at any cost, but the fact of the matter is, if he can't get that financing, we can't move forward. And oftentimes, we kind of approach things a little less conventionally than perhaps more sophisticated developers, in the sense that sometimes we jump before we have a plan in action. And consequently, we're sometimes find ourselves knee-deep in a project before we even dot the i's and cross the t's on the financing. And so that's gotten us a little bit of trouble in the past as well. But the answer to your question is, without some sort of incentives, the banks would even allow the financing to be put in place, and that would prevent these kinds of projects from happening.
Any other questions for Joe? I just want to echo, because the Allen Foundation in 2007 got involved in Orchard Street. And at that time, when the city had done all its work on West Street, which was so great for neighborhood revitalization, there was a lot of CDBG money at the time. And of course, now, all these years later, the city was a partner, but didn't have that amount of money to bring to the table. So, you start on a project like an Orchard Street renovation, and you look at all the projects you've done, and you do have to take this leap of faith, and you have to take, there is a lot of risk in a lot of these projects. And I think what you've heard from everybody here is that there is just resounding appreciation and gratitude for you, your brother, your dad, for, it's a lot of sweat equity that goes into these projects, but also just your ability to be innovative, think differently, and really committed to Auburn. So thank you. So thanks to everyone else.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to kind of give you the dog and pony show. Thank you very much.